A few days ago, I opened Atlantis in Heroes of History of Epic Empire, and honestly, my first reaction was pretty simple. Okay, another event, capturing some nodes, getting some rewards, and moving on. At least that was what I was thinking. Then I start reading the rules, and I look at the rankings, then I look at the shop, and that's when I realized this event might be one of the easiest places in Heroes of History Epic Empire to accidentally hurt your own progress. Not because the event is difficult, because it tricks you into focusing over the wrong thing. And the funny part, I already saw players doing exactly that. When most people open Atlantis, the first thing they see is the ranking, first place, secondary place, victory points, node control, generation rate, everything scream one message: get some points. And honestly, that's exactly where my brains went to. If a first place get almost 1k 3 tons, and the second place get around 800, then naturally you start thinking, how do we win? How do we capture those nodes? How do we beat everybody else? But then I noticed something interesting. The rewards between first and the second aren't actually that massive. Yet the effort difference can be huge. And that's where I think players need to stop for a second, because the real question is, can we win Atlantis? The real question is what I'm willing to spend to win Atlantis. Those are two very different questions. Then I noticed something else. Every attack costs Atlantis energy. Every battle creates attrition. Every hero slowly get damaged. And suddenly this wasn't looking like a normal event anymore. Now we're managing resources, not just fights. Because eventually your heroes become weaker, you start using medkits, you start rotation heroes, you start running out of your best squads, and that's when I realized Atlantis isn't really testing power. It's testing efficiency. The strongest alliance doesn't automatically win. The alliance that wastes the least resources often win. And those are two completely different things. And one of the things you can actually see right now, I don't remember when I put my garrison, but you can see that you can attack, for example, this player here. Yeah, I have like 4 from 5 attacks. In the same time, when you click here, you can go and do some repair, or maybe doing some healing over the heroes. I think I don't have med packs. Yeah, I finished my med packs, but you can basically do a heal over this team that are right here. But then but then things got even more interesting. I saw that every player only bring 25 heroes. At first that sounds like a lot, until you start thinking about it. What happens if you bring all of your strongest heroes? What happens if you burn them in the first day? What happens if the important fights happen later? Suddenly roster management become a strategy itself. And honestly, this reminds me of mistakes I made in the other games. Using everything immediately because the fight look important, only to discover the real fights start later. I think Atlantis is going to punish players who play emotionally, and reward players who think a few days ahead. Then I found something most people will probably ignore: the hidden rating system. And this is where things got really interesting. The game literally tells us there is hidden personal rating, not alliance rating, personal rating. Your performance matter. And for the people who don't know where is this personal, is basically this is internal. So you can see attack started, defense won, repair started, healing done, contribution points. Your alliance results matter, and that creates a completely different question. What if Atlantis isn't only about today rewards? What if Atlantis is secretly affecting your future matchmaking too? Because if your rating change after every season, then every Atlantis battle become part of much bigger story, not just one event. Your long-term Atlantis event as your long-term Atlantis experience, and I think a lot of players will overlook that. Then I started looking at the node control, and this is what you're seeing in form of nodes here. This is, for example, noble house. And this is completely changes how I view the map. Most players see nodes as territory. I start seeing them as income because the leaderboard isn't really rewarding who owns the prettiest part of the map. It rewards who generate points consistently. That's a huge difference. I have been seeing this mistake in strategy games for years. Players chase the big fight, meanwhile somebody quietly capture efficient points and win through accumulation. And when you look back later, it feels like they come out from nowhere, but they didn't. They were simply generating value where everybody else was chasing battles. Then I look at the Atlantis shop. It's not actually here, just to open the Atlantis shop. It's basically this one is the Atlantis shop, and honestly this might be biggest trap in this entire event because players immediately start calculating rewards. What can I buy? What should I save? What is the best value? Maybe I'm going to make a separate video about this, but before you can answer any of that, there is another question: how much are you spending to get those rewards? Because a reward is only valuable if it costs less than what you invested to get it. And I've been seeing players in strategy games spend massive resources chasing rewards that were worth that the worth of these rewards was less than the resources they burned getting there. And sometimes the smartest Atlantis players won't be the players who get the most returns. It will be the players who get the best return from these returns. And this is a big difference what you're exactly going to get from this shop. And that's when my opinion on Atlantis completely changed. At first I thought this was another PvP event, then I think it's actually an efficiency event disgusted as a PvP event. The fight is obvious, the resources management is hidden, the leaderboard is obvious, the long-term rating system is hidden, the rewards are obvious, the cost of earning those rewards is hidden, and usually those hidden things are exactly where strategy games are won. So if you're going into Atlantis, I want to pay attention to one thing. Don't just ask how do we get more points, ask are we getting those points efficiently? Because I have a feeling a lot of alliances are going to finish this event thinking they play well and then realize they spend far more than they enjoy. I'm curious if you'll be already noticed the same thing. Do you see Atlantis as a PvP event, or do you see it as a resource management event disgusted as a PvP? Let me know in the comments because the more I look at the Atlantis, the more I think most players are focused on wrong battles. So this is my short overview over the Atlantis. I didn't make any kind of videos over this event, but I started playing it and for me it was actually very interesting event. So let me know what you think, guys, in the comments below. So far, don't forget to hit one like, subscribe for more Heroes of History Epic Empire videos. If you want to directly support my working channel, you can become a member. So far, I wish you a great day and see you in the next video.